What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, our Wednesday afternoon show presented by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar, the OG of Couch in the Rube sponsors, a go-to place for me, a place I recommend to people highly, and a place with great happy hour specials, great place to park up and watch a game, sit up and watch a game, however you want to phrase that. Great place for a date night. And one of the best reservation systems around. If you go to caskandcompany.com, especially if it's on a weekend, they do get pretty busy. You can write in if you want a booth, anything like that at caskandcompany.com. It's just north of Frandor on East Saginaw near the East Lansing border. Outstanding menu, 2 adjoining restaurants, 2 slightly different vibes, 1 great menu, and terrific drink selection. Jason, how you doing, brother?
Iguna Yaba Gita Jared Goff.
Killed it. I did it again.
What's up, man? Am I a boomer because I had to play it off my phone because I couldn't figure out how to send it to myself? There's no airdrop on this thing, so.
I am looking forward to talking to Harry later in today's show. That is the sound of him, of a video after he killed a rattlesnake with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And
he sent me 2 videos back to back. One of the rattlesnake. By the way, just not accompanied, attached with the explanation of what was going on. It's just all of a sudden I see a rattlesnake, and then the next thing is with Harry's voiceover with rocks on top of the rattlesnake saying that he killed it. So
it's incredible. It's incredible.
So no gambling. I don't really care what he has going on gambling wise. I just want to. How do you kill that?
Yes.
We've been talking about it forever, but you're scared of rabbits. I didn't want to handle this the raccoon fetus or whatever squirrel fetus I had in my yard, and Harry's walking out and just crushing rattlesnake.
The fact that he had that in his yard makes Arizona disqualifying for me as a place to live or visit.
I don't even think about that.
Yeah.
Like when we were, going to Arizona or something like that, I don't think of those like animals that you have to deal with out there.
When I was like
crocodiles,
20 years old, driving back on a trip from Florida with some friends around New Year's, it was actually the millennium when the Y2K was going to hit and all that stuff.
Yeah. Scary times.
I remember, I did not want to get out of the car to a rest area in rural Georgia because every episode of Rescue 911 I ever saw began with some kids wandering in the woods in rural Georgia and like a rattlesnake bites them. Like, to me, rural Georgia is not a place that should be inhabited by humans because it feels like there are too many creatures that already have laid claim to it. And apparently Arizona is the same way. I would not have killed it with my bare hands. I would have picked up my house and I would have moved.
How do you let your kids go play in those elements? Because when I was a kid, I'd never thought about it. But man, if there was a possibility of a rattlesnake or something that you could step on,
every parent,
get out of here.
Every parent in
what
Arizona,
kind of parenting is that?
Yeah, every parent in Arizona or rural Georgia should have their kids taken away from them.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Anyway,
we got what I think will be a fun show today. We're gonna have Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic, beat writer, covers the Tigers. Really does a fantastic job. We're going to talk some Tigers baseball with him momentarily. Then we'll have Harry on.
Big doubleheader today. Is he at the doubleheader or what?
The doubleheader's tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. They thought it was going to be today, so we didn't. Yeah, because there's weather out there. So they played tonight.
Weather still. Jesus.
Doubleheader tomorrow in Colorado.
All right.
Before we get to Cody briefly, I just want to talk a little bit on the MSU AD thing. I'm putting together a column, maybe the 3 quick takes variety. May get to 5 quick takes. Not sure. Yeah.
Ooh.
Sort of talking it out through my head. Yeah. Well, and I keep seeing everybody's making their lists of people they think might be the next AD, and it's all bullshit. I'm not saying their lists are bullshit and they're not credible.
At least their names. I like it.
I know. That's what I mean. But like nobody – I think it's much more important because nobody knows if any of these people will be good. You can name a name and you can have a resume. But to me, the more I think about this job, like there's no doubt that what Michigan State needs from their next athletic director, right? It's somebody who can walk among billionaires and feels comfortable in their world and can appease and invigorate a donor base, all that stuff. And it's a donor base that's more relied upon than ever. And it doesn't need to even be someone who's a sitting AD right now. In some ways, that might be not the profile. There's an argument that that's not the profile that fits what's required, that you want somebody else who's run a big organization or nonprofit or hospital, whatever it might be, that relies heavily on high donors and knows how to exist in that world. And if that's what the job mostly is, I don't know that, I've heard people tell me that they'll be on like panels with ADs at different places, and they're unimpressive. They don't really get it. They don't know. If you've been doing this a long time, I don't know if this is the fit for you anymore. It's a really challenging, interesting time, because I do think the next person is going to face budgetary challenges like never before. So you've got to try and raise a ton of money. You got to make difficult decisions that might seem heartless, but also have to make sense for what's important to the MSU community in terms of maybe cutting sports, what gets invested in.
Pound the bushes.
I think, and you got to talk to people. Maybe not Jim Hios, but actual donors. I still can't believe
Jim can get in there, I think.
Jim is not at the level. I still find that hilarious that Channel 10 went to Jim Hios for the voice of the donors. That is not.
He had 2 footballs behind him on his table there.
Love Jim Hios.
Yeah.
I would not call that great journalism on the part of Channel 10. No offense. But he's not setting the tone for the donor base. However, but he does. I think he does. He is right on the sense that there are new revenue streams that need to be tapped into, new donors that need to be reached. There's a lot that needs to be done in that realm, and there are. I think it's going to be a challenging time because of expectations too. Like one thing that Izzo has obviously reached high heights many times with his program, and he's created expectations that sometimes he struggles to reach. I think football is going to be even more difficult because what D'Antonio did about a decade ago will be hard to duplicate, but he created a standard that people dream of. And then Mel Tucker had that moment when he was recruiting that everybody got excited about. And so you're going to have to not only make sure you have the right coach for that, but raise money to give that person a chance at competing at that level. And the thing is, there's going to be a lot of donor fatigue. You're already seeing it. And I don't think what exists right now is all that sustainable, but the level of donor fatigue and the desperation to raise money and all that stuff will be different at different schools. Even some schools that seem like they have all the advantages will have years that are challenging, and people that don't want to I think managing all of that and making sure that you're flexible to whatever the next system is, because I do think I would love to be able to fast forward a year from now and see what it all looks like if the House settlement's gone through, which I think it will for July 1st, and you have revenue sharing, and you do have a clearinghouse that other NIL deals have to go through, what the workarounds are, what the lawsuits are, what that all looks like. Because there are a lot of donors, a lot of places that are just sort of hoping to get to revenue sharing and don't want to have to keep funding something that isn't tax deductible, that doesn't come with necessarily easy, tangible results. They don't love this system. And this is not just Michigan State. And so what does that look like? And then I think you need somebody who's on the front foot on things. It's not just flexible to whatever happens, but then is thinking in terms of what could happen and how do you put Michigan State out in front? How do you, like, you think about the Matt Ishbia United Wholesale Mortgage deal they had years ago, and that felt cutting edge for a minute and quickly got passed, right, with all their top athletes getting stipends, monthly stipends. Like, how do you get out front on things like that? How do you create additional streams of revenue that give you an advantage? Those need to be the types of thoughts that this news person has. And then you've got, look, they have good people in fundraising. They do. I know some of them. And I think they have good administrators there. I think Alan Haller did a lot of good things. In some ways, if you had two cohorts where you had almost two ADs, where you had one person running the day-to-day and one person, dealing with the idea of funding an athletic department at the level you need to today, and they both reported to the president, maybe in a different world that could work. I don't know if you have a spot for $2 million positions like that, but it's going to be, I don't know. To me, it is a really challenging job. I think it could be a good job, but I think you can really think outside the box here. I think thinking, well, this guy's the AD here, this person's the AD here, this person might be good, and maybe they would. I'm not saying you shouldn't interview those people. But what is really required of the job right now doesn't necessarily require that you're an athletic director. And I think that needs to be something that's taken probably more into account than is being thought of right now. And look, it's going to take a while before that person's in place. I think I've heard, it can move quickly, but I don't. When people say quickly, I don't think it's like, I don't know. I would be surprised if that person is in place before July. Now we may know that person quicker than that, but I think it will take a minute, and it's a critical hire. You got to get it right, but I don't think you need to sit around and go, boy, can they get the Pitt AD? Can they get the UCLA AD? What I don't know that ADs are right for being athletic directors right now. Lots of time to talk about this. We'll get into it in your Groovy Donut Twitter questions tomorrow on Friday show. By the way, Mother's Day pre-orders at groovydonuts.com. If you're thinking about mom, go to groovydonuts.com. Jason, you want to get our man Cody on the phone? While he's getting Cody on the phone, a reminder, like one of the great things I love about Front 43 and Gaskin Company is their underrated patio. And I go there often at evening, like with a team, be it the softball team or soccer team or friends. And you might think, oh, it's just off a parking lot. The way the vibes there, the way they have the little wooden fence set up with the lighting and the fire. Not the thing's not on fire, but the little stones in the fire and all the charcoal pits and everything. It really is an awesome vibe and a great place to spend an evening at Front 43 and Gaskin Company. Again, reservations at gaskincompany.com. Date night, watch a game, whatever it might be. It's just an awesome place. Trust me, I highly recommend it, and I've never had anybody I've recommended it to be disappointed. Very pleased now to be joined by our friend Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic, covers the Tigers extremely well. And I feel really good for Cody. One of the things, every time the Tigers win, I think there is part of me that thinks, hell yeah, for Cody, who left covering major college football at the highest level because he wanted to cover baseball. And in doing so, then picked up like the worst organization for 6 years and had to write about them. And now it's a lot more fun. Cody, how you doing?
Hey, doing well, Graham. Thank you for that. There's certainly some truth to that. It's also funny, right? The last couple of years, I've been branching out, doing a little bit of national coverage, and editors have kind of been like, "Hey, we kind of want you focused less on the Tigers, right? Really go start doing some other stuff." And so, as soon as I'm trying to make that transition, the Tigers are great and one of the best stories in baseball, right? So it's never exactly easy, but it's definitely a lot more fun to be around this team these days.
No, it's amazing. And like it's like with the Pistons, they did it a year too late. James left for New York. He was like, I just can't do it anymore. They were like, we got to get you out of here. And luckily you hadn't fully shipped out yet when the Tigers made their move. Let's start there. Like how your day-to-day from even a year ago at this time when they were struggling and before the late season run to now, how different is it in terms of interest and the type of stories you're able to tell and how you approach things?
Yeah, the interest is definitely building. I think it's still kind of getting there, right? We're not fully into summer yet. People are still kind of transitioning out of NFL draft and all that, but you're starting to see it. Sounds like the ticket sales this coming weekend at Comerica Park are expected to be really strong. I think on the ground, it's just funny the different things that both fans are interested in and then we as writers are talking about now. Used to be, you go into the clubhouse and you're just like, okay, what is there? This team's not any good. No one wants a big feature on the eighth reliever in the bullpen. So it felt like I wrote about Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson and Colt Keith and the ups and downs of their development just a million times, right? And it was just like looking at every little metric and then talking about the prospects and what does this look like in a year. And now the focus is on the major league team and what's happening at the major league level. Fans are like interested in AJ Hinch's lineup and the things he's been doing for years, but no one really was putting full attention on some of the minutia. And it's kind of a little more reactive to how players are doing in the moment, but also a greater appreciation for how guys are doing right now in this moment. People aren't asking me about prospects at all, and the Tigers have a great farm system, right? But the focus has just really shifted as a result of the team being good at the major league level.
And as fun as prospects are, you can only do it for so long. Like eventually, this is the better way to be.
It's a dangerous cycle.
yeah. Well, and even you wrote a nice piece on Javi Baez recently, And, like, that's a piece that you just can't write a year ago, right? Nobody wants to read about Javi unless it was, like, a really negative, what the hell happened here? What are they going to do? Let's start there. A guy like that. Like, I didn't know if he'd be part of this team. I didn't know if he certainly, did he have a role at, shortstop as a regular? And they've been hit with some injuries, and he's been essential and seemingly willing to be what's ever needed. Now, he's getting paid a lot for what's been very iffy performance over the course of his contract. So he shouldn't be complaining about anything. What has stood out to you about his season and his story this year?
I think it's kind of like Javi entered this season, I think, at a little bit of a tipping point. This could have gone one or two ways. You had a veteran on a big contract who wasn't going to be the team's everyday shortstop anymore. A lot of guys would have sat in the corner and pouted and been really miserable and been like this cancer. I think people have perceived Javi as that in the past, and it was never really fair. Like, I've never really observed that from Javi. He's a little more of a quiet guy. He's a little bit more to himself, but teammates seem to love him, respect the way he plays the game. I don't think he was ever like a cancer. But faced with this like more heightened situation, rather than going that way, he went the complete opposite way. He embraced A.J. Hinch saying, hey, what if we put you in other positions? He embraced the challenge of playing center field. I think he was energized by a team that had chances of becoming more competitive and really wanted to be a part of it, right? This is a guy, he was in Florida, rehabbing from surgery last fall and came up to Cleveland, drove from Detroit to Cleveland for the ALDS just because he wanted to be there. And so he's really embraced that, and in turn, he's played pretty well. He's had more fun. You can see more glimpses of that old Javi, the Cubs Javi that was such an electric player. We've gotten small doses of it, but really not very much in his time in Detroit. Suddenly you're getting a lot of it. Everyone wants to know, like, can this keep up? If you want to go into the analysis, you can go to his Baseball Savant page. There's a lot of blue. I'm not particularly confident he's going to lead the Tigers in WAR for the rest of the season. But if he can keep finding small ways to contribute and be a viable player and provide some exciting moments, it's going to continue to go a long way.
Yeah, he's got 2 years after this on his contract. He certainly prolonged his career with his choice. He's going to get paid either way to some degree. But he's a useful player at this point, even if it's a utility guy. Because I do wonder, as they get healthier, what his role is, how frequent it is, and whether he's close to an everyday guy is you get deeper into the season.
Yeah.
Well, what's your sense? Matt Vierling's probably the first guy coming back off the injured list. What's your sense of what this lineup would look like, say, a month from now?
Yeah, I keep getting this question, and it's a little bit tricky to know. I think Justin Henry Malloy and Jace Young are going to be susceptible to getting optioned when Vierling returns, maybe even if Manuel Margot returns as soon as today or the next couple days. We'll see what the Tigers do there. And then you're hoping to get Parker Meadows maybe by the end of the month, although he's not yet started a rehab assignment. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, you have some hard decisions ahead that could cut into playing time for a guy like Baez, for a guy like Zach McKinstry. But we twist ourselves into these knots thinking like, all right, how will this playing time get distributed at third base? And the reality of baseball is like, someone else is probably going to pull a hammy, and then a bunch of more playing time opens up all over again. So I think it's important to keep that in mind. But in this perfect world where everyone's healthy and Javi's still productive, I would see him sliding more back into a utility role. When Parker Meadows is here, he's probably not going to be playing so much center field, but maybe he can spell Meadows there. That's something that's in his tool bag now. He can play some third. And shortstop is suddenly, Trey Sweeney. He had a nice weekend, but Trey Sweeney's going to be under some pressure to pick it up, or maybe there's a chance Javi really vies for closer to everyday short playing time at shortstop again.
Spencer Torkelson, that story, and obviously his batting average is not great, and he's slowed down a little bit here,
yeah.
But. And so I don't know what an OPS realistically for the duration of a season is realistic for him. But he's certainly a guy who may have been done with the Tigers if he had had a poor spring or a poor start to the season is now, I guess, would you say, what do you think the Tigers think of him in terms of the future and the plan? Like, I mean, are they sort of in a wait-and-see mode? Let's see what this guy does over the course of, 889 OPS right now, top 4 in homers for the year, 27 RBIs. Like, there's some really good stuff in there. And the other thing is, it seems like he's had big hits and big moments at times, which has not been his specialty over his career.
Yeah, kind of the flip side of Javi Baez, the metrics on Spencer Torkelson are great. Like, there's a lot of reason to believe he can continue doing this. I think the mental part of the game is pretty huge for him, just given his history. Like, how does he respond to a slump? Well, right now, he's in a 5-for-40 rut, and I think a lot of people don't even realize that because 3 of his 5 hits have been homers, a couple of them in big spots. But he's continued to hit the ball hard. He's having pretty good at-bats. I'm interested to see how pitchers are going to continue to adapt in attacking him. But the signs you look for, are guys hitting the ball hard? Are they barreling up the ball? Are they getting the ball in the air? Like, Torkelson's continuing to check all those boxes, and the fact he's had some big hits, even when he's going through it a little bit, I view as pretty encouraging. The long-term picture, man, I don't know. I think the Tigers probably are like cautiously optimistic that this is going to be for real and a guy they can count on. But it's certainly a question, they're going to have to let unfold throughout the course of the season. They have a lot invested in Colt Keith, a guy they've already signed to a contract extension. And you have a bunch of infielders on the way like Kevin McGonigal. And it's easy to look at next year's team and be like, okay, what do is Colt Keith going to be your second baseman? Like, in order to do that, you have to have a very high degree of confidence in Torkelson at first. That's probably all like putting the cart in front of the horse a little bit. Torkelson's had a great start. It's a great story. There's a lot of reason to believe he can continue to produce.
Are you surprised? I thought without Parker Meadows, I was worried about how they'd start because he was such a big part of the engine, and the correlation between his health and his run and their run late in the year was so obvious. And you look at the run differential, which I think is a great example of a team that has a chance to sustain something. They may not sustain it at this level, but obviously you're more likely to be this far above 500 and winning. And are you surprised by? I mean, the staff had a chance to be really good. I think we all knew that, but there really haven't been any holes there on the pitching staff, bullpen or starters, and then other than Maeda, who's no longer around, and there's just the way that they've been able to hit pretty consistently, which I didn't know if that would be there.
Yeah, no, hugely surprised by what they've done at the plate, and it's because you've had some big surprises. Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, Spencer Torkelson being 3 of your most productive players. Dylan Dingler was a guy people were unsure about. But, that kind of explains it. You've got some contributions from some unexpected places that is more than made up for not having Meadows and not having Veerling. At the conclusion of spring training, I thought the Tigers would be a competitive team. I really believed in their pitching and thought it could carry them a pretty long way. But I kind of viewed them as like, all right, they could win anywhere from 83, 84, 85, 86 games. And the difference between 83 and 86 might be the difference between playoffs or not. They're off to a start that has blown all that out of the water. I'm definitely surprised by how well they have hit the ball. I'm sure there will be a rough patch at some point this summer, but they're stacking wins. They're kind of padding their playoff odds every single day right now. They have 3 games coming up against the worst team in baseball. It's starting to look like the ceiling for this team could be 90-plus wins, and I don't know. It's a long season, so who knows? But to answer the question, I did not see the Tigers hitting the ball this well, and they have. And the fact you're still getting reinforcements like a Meadows, like a Veerling, makes me pretty optimistic for what the rest of the season could hold.
You mentioned Dingler. What do they do with Jake Rogers? What happens when that? I mean, at some point you've got 3 catchers, right? And that's hard to deal with on a major league roster. What do you think happens there?
Yeah, I think Jake will be up when he's ready. I think Tomas Nido will go down, and then how the playing time gets distributed will be interesting. I think right now everyone's like Dingler should be the number 1 catcher. I don't think that's AJ Hinch's style. I could see Rogers continuing to catch Scooble every day. Dingler, I don't think, has caught Jackson Jobe since Seattle. So maybe it's as simple as who's pitching. Maybe Jake Rogers starts on Scooble days and Jobe days, and Dingler starts the other days. And then if Dingler continues to have an 800 OPS, this is going to be a little bit different discussion. But assuming Dingler comes back down to earth like a little bit, I think it could be a 50-50 to 60-40 split. But, we'll see what happens. We'll see how Dingler hits the ball. We'll see how Jake Rogers hits the ball. They're both premium defenders, and I think as a result of that, they're both going to play.
It's been a long time since the Tigers haven't been sellers at the deadline. And you mentioned Scooble, and obviously his contract is something people are wondering about. Now, it's different when you're not just getting great performance out of him, but his performances are contributing to an organization that has a chance in the playoffs, right? And that I'm wondering, like, how the Tigers are playing. How much do you think that impacts their conversations about what to do with Tarek Skubal and whether he is an off-season sell or whether he is right out the contract or whether it's try to re-sign? Like, does what they have become as an organization in terms of, a division title contender and postseason thoughts and all that change the conversation around him?
I think that's kind of the huge landmine this organization is facing right now. Based on my experience with the Scott Harris front office, these guys are pretty disciplined. They don't overreact to things. But I think that has to factor into the Skubal calculus, right? It's going to be really hard to extend him. He's a Scott Boras client. So going into this offseason, I don't know. There's precedent. I'm starting to think maybe they just ride out the contract, give him the qualifying offer, do their best to re-sign him. And if he can't, then, hey, you gave it a good try. You got every single game you could out of Skubal. There's a world where, the Houston Astros have done that with players. And then there are smaller market teams, the Milwaukee Brewers, who traded Corbin Burns with a year left on his deal because they wanted to get value in exchange. That is probably going to be a little bit of a litmus test for how the Tigers view themselves. And it's a really hard decision. I think it's encouraging that they're playing well. I mean, there was a world you can envision where, they have injuries and they're off to a terrible start, and we're talking, should you trade Skubal now at this year's deadline to get as much as you possibly can in return? I mean, that was going to be like a terrible kind of crux the Tigers could have faced. They're playing really well. I think that's out the window. This offseason, it's still going to be a huge decision point, and I'm not completely sure how they're going to handle it, but it'll probably be revealing whatever they choose.
Cody, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for taking so much time. It's good to hear your voice, and I'm just glad you're covering relevant baseball and writing about it, and I really enjoy the work, man.
Hey, well, thank you, Graham. I appreciate it.
That is Cody Stavenhagen from The Athletic. Fantastic stuff there. You can read him at The Athletic, and if you're getting into the Tigers and I don't know. I think he does a really good job, and he's been on the beat during the years from hell, so he certainly knows. I always think that helps. Like when you've been around something for a little while, you write from that perspective of understanding where a fan base is, where an organization's been, and you don't see it in every story, but you see it in the stories you choose and the tone and all that stuff. I think it makes a difference. Anything stand out from that?
I got to
Jason?
say, I feel bad, but I kind of forgot about Parker Meadows. Like when you guys were talking about it, I was like, oh shit, that's right. He's coming back soon. That's how great things have been. But I was also, the Tigers have a minor league report. It's a podcast. I don't go deep, but the guys, I saw on Twitter that they were talking about possibly do we owe Al Avila an apology with the success. Well, hold on.
Okay.
I mean, after finishing 2024, this is from Tigers PR, as baseball's winningest organization, 5 of our 6 affiliates, including Major League Baseball, are currently leading their respective decisions. So it's like Western Michigan, Erie, and the Tigers all lead their respective leagues in run differential.
I think
do we have to sit there? I mean, we already have to kiss Javi Baez's ass, which, by the way, I hope it's PED related, so we don't, I don't really care. Juice up all you want, but that has to be the only explanation why Javi Baez is doing these things.
Let me ask you this. Do you think if Al Avila was still the GM, this is where the Tigers would be? Right, me neither.
No.
All right. So, did he pick a few people that were good? Yeah, well, they picked high every year. And there were some good draft picks and good
right,
trades.
But look at Mize and look at Torque. I mean, those were obvious decisions, but I mean, those things are somewhat panning out now.
But the credit for their development late it goes to people who stuck with them and have worked with them in the development of not giving up too early. I mean, I think there are lessons in that. Like it'll forever be like Casey Mize and Torkelson having this season together, and obviously Mize had some serious arm injuries, right? So you got to give a pitcher like that a little more time. But will forever be a lesson to me on like hold off on judging young players because especially in baseball where these guys don't hit their big money years until they're like 37 years old when they have to be paid. Like there's no reason to give up on a player if you think at all there's a chance. You know what I mean? There's just no reason. I mean, if they'd given up on Mize before now, that would be a shame if he was somewhere pitching like he is now, right? Yeah. Or if Torkelson was,
you have to be patient. That's what fans hate to hear is patience.
Well, and what's worse about it, and hopefully the Tigers are never in this exact situation again, when you go through like 6 or 7 years like the Tigers just did, nobody wants to hear patience. If you're not going through that, if you're winning, like you know how much easier it is to be patient about a young player today when they're winning. Like if somebody tells you right now, hey, there's a guy in Erie who I think is going to be really good, but you got to be patient. All right, well they're good.
No worries, man. What time's the game on tonight?
Correct. Yeah. If 3 years ago you hear that and they're like 12 games under 500, you're like, well, fucking how long you got to wait?
Bring them up, man.
Yeah, like
what are we waiting for?
So I think some of it just if you can be healthy at the parent club.
Yeah.
Then the patience isn't.
It just means that our future is kind of solidified. That which is a good thing. That's all we really wanted. We wanted to be competitive, but then we talk about Cody was mentioning trading Skubal possibly at the trade deadline this year, and then I see there's only a limited number of seats, standing room seats, for Saturday's game against the Rangers. So be careful of what you do there, oh Chrissy boy. Just pay the MFer and what are we doing? He's a different kind of pitcher. When you watch that guy pitch, he's different than the others. You have to pay for that. You are selling out your fucking stadium because of this guy.
People
what are we doing?
People want to go on Skubal days. Like they want to go to the park on those days. And I think it gives you a guy like you can have guys who develop like Reese Olson is I wouldn't say he's quite an ace.
Babyface assassin.
But he's a borderline ace. Like he's a 1B type guy, right? He's really good.
With
the way
potential.
He's pitching. With potential for it.
Nasty.
But you're right. There is something to it's the just the ferociousness.
A man on first and third with one out, and you don't have to feel like you're panicking. Right. When he gets into a jam, and he usually gets himself out of a jam, and that's really nice to see once out of every 5 days. Because you can't have that many. I mean, how many of those guys can you possibly have on your pitching staff?
No,
and I'm sit there and be like, well, what would be the haul? What would someone offer us? I don't give a shit. I don't want to hear about a haul. I don't want to have the Orioles offer Jackson Holiday and all that shit. I don't want to be intrigued by that. I want to just sign them. I want to keep them here.
Well, and here's what Cody just talked about. I'm more inclined. Like to me, I think the edge he brings, sort of the confidence, the swagger. You got that guy on the mound. He's part of your team. I think that matters. So I would be much more inclined, especially if it looks like the Tigers have built something that's pretty sustainable when you look at the number of young guys and the depth of the pitching staff, all that sort of stuff. And I understand that the pitching staff will change a little bit. Guys like Jack Flaherty probably aren't there for the next decade, obviously. But I do think like the idea of just getting every last pitch you can out of Skubal at the end, and if you do somehow lose him, you make an effort when he's done to try to re-sign him. And if you do lose him, if you're talking about 3 playoff seasons in a row at the end of his contract, I guess I'm okay with that. It's just different than it was before where you felt like when you were a losing franchise, you have to get value. Otherwise, you're just wasting. Yeah, it's great to see him pitch, but you're not getting anything out of it. If you're talking the playoff run last year, playoffs this year, and playoffs next year, and you get 3 full playoffs, then you're getting something out of that. It's not a waste.
Right.
And to me, if you cannot, I'm not saying in this offseason if you get offered a haul that's something you can't turn down, I'm not saying you don't look at it, but I just don't think the urgency should be there anymore. You get getting every last pitch out of him doesn't seem like a bad deal. It felt like a bad deal when that was going to be for win number 78 in a year, and that didn't make any sense. But if it's win number 92, and now you've got a chance to pitch in the postseason with an ace, and by
the way, what haul do we need? We have a top run differential in different
yeah.
leagues, different A, AA, and Major League Baseball to sit there. That when you need a haul is for when teams are starting to fade and you need to kind of flip things around. When your minor league system is that good, and a guy like Skubal is going to be good for your other pitchers on the staff too. When a guy pitches like that and they watch him, it has to be motivational. So I just don't know what we're doing. It just blows my mind. The fact that it's even in a conversation is wild to me.
Before we get to Harry here and take a break, I want to give a quick shout-out to maybe Meebe, who is flying back and forth from, I presume, Denver, where the Tigers are anyway, Denver to Chicago and back today, and was asking if we were going to have a podcast. So I feel good that we're able to deliver. And safe travel and
Are you giving travel shout-outs now?
Yeah, that's our new thing. That's our new thing. We will be right back with Harry, and we'll do some best bets and all that good stuff. Couch in the Rube, our Wednesday afternoon show, presented by our friends at Front 43 and Cask & Company. Great place to watch the Tigers.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeeper's online casino and sportsbook is the site to play. From your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch in the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at gomuskox.com, where Couch in the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Find Couch in the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch in the Rube, our Wednesday show, brought to you by our friends at Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar near the Lansing-East Lansing border. It is time now to bring on the great Harry Gagnon from Against All Odds with Cousin Sal, and, of course, The Ringer and BetOnline.com, and a rattlesnake killer. And that's how we will ever know. We will know him as the rattlesnake killer, Harry Gagnon. Harry, I'm glad you're alive today. That was an amazing video.
Yeah, that was a battle for people who don't know. It was last week. I'm coming home, not even that hot of a day, and walking up my front door, and there's a rattlesnake right there, and it wasn't small. And I just I've killed a couple snakes in the past living out here in Arizona, but never a rattlesnake. And that rattler was going off, and I didn't know what to do, so I just grabbed a couple rocks, heavy rocks, and I just dropped it close by on him, pinned him, and then I took him down from there. Wild.
Okay. Harry, so first of all, I would have peed down my leg first and then run and then sold the house.
Well, right, Grant. Well, it's me, and knowing that there is a rattlesnake on my property, I can't just sneak into my house and be okay with that, and then move on with the rest of the day. It's going to drive me nuts. Like if I've been lucky enough to be in this house in Arizona, this house 3 years in a row. I haven't seen the scorpion, knock on wood, but outside, that's the second rattlesnake I've seen. My yard guy killed the first one. I killed the second one. And if it's on my property, I'm sorry, I got to kill it. I got to kill it.
Are you sure that was your first kill? Because, you know.
Killed it. I did it again.
I mean, that was pretty wild hearing that. Because, by the way, Harry, you sent those unprompted to us. So I was looking at him, and I watched the video, and all of a sudden I hear you had some Bane voice going on. I'm like, man, how many times has he killed one of these bad boys?
I've killed 2 other snakes. They were black and white. I don't remember what they were, but they weren't poisonous from what I understand. But this was me head to head with a rattlesnake, and I took him down.
What do you mean you don't know what they look like? Don't you have a chart on your fridge of, like, if I went outside, I'd want to know the top 5 like most dangerous snakes I'm going to go out and see. You're just like, I don't know, it's black and white.
You know what? I mean, but you know, there are certain snakes that look very similar. There's a gopher snake. If you look up gopher snake and you look up rattlesnake, they look very similar in that tannish beige sort of color. Got a couple, like, they're very similar, and I've killed one of those before, but now I got a scorpion to add because that rattler was going off. I thought it was my irrigation system. Water just turning on, and I turned off to the side, and I said, I don't see any water going on, and then I got pretty close, which is kind of stupid, and that rattlesnake was going wild.
That's wild.
Well, I'm glad you're alive. I would have a guy who took care of that stuff for me. I would not handle it myself personally, but
he has a yard guy. But, you know, sometimes the yard guy's gone. You got to handle it yourself.
Right.
It's got to be the first number in your phone. Like, you know how you save – I would save a rattlesnake guy, so it comes up early and under the names. A rattlesnake guy with an A instead of rattlesnake guy, just so you can find that.
I did it again.
Yeah.
Well, Harry, I'm glad you're here and with us forever.
That's all we needed, by the way. We don't need to talk gambling.
Yeah.
So
the
Yeah. In 2 weeks, I'll be in Europe again, guys. So I'll have stories from over there. So,
whoa! What are you doing in Europe?
Springsteen's back.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
You gonna catch any soccer while you're over there?
Maybe, hopefully.
Don't ruin it.
There's even a league in France. Maybe I'll go there.
Oh yeah. Go to some Ligue 1 games. Absolutely. It would be fantastic. All right. Well, there are a couple things you do like. You like Jimmy Butler in Game 2. You're high on Jimmy Butler here in Game 2 of the Warriors Timberwolves, and obviously no Steph Curry. Explain the bet there you like so much.
I like you can get him to record a double-double at plus 210. Triple-double, by the way, guys. Triple-double, 16-1. I really like double-double. Like you mentioned, with Curry out, Butler ran a lot of the point yesterday. And he did have a double-double. He was just 2 assists away from a triple-double. Butler was also extremely close to double-doubles in Game 7 and 6 and 7 versus Houston. In 8 postseason games, guys, even though he got injured there, he's played 40 or more minutes in 6 of the 8 games. I think 10 assists is certainly doable with being the playmaker, especially now that Buddy Hield has been playing really well lately, shooting the ball well. You get assists that way. And again, with Curry out there, when not there, Butler's got the ball in his hands even more.
Yeah, I like it. Jimmy Butler has a flair for understanding. This is a moment where he's got to take over.
Right.
I still think there's some decent. Like when I look at futures in the NBA and adjusted futures, I'll tell you one that I'm starting to like, guys. The Indiana Pacers to win the Eastern Conference, plus 415. So they're up 2-0 in a series right now, right? And Cleveland's got injury problems. I think there's at least a 50-50 chance, probably better than that the Pacers find a way to get through this series at this point. And then you're facing probably still Boston. but a Boston team that's got their own injuries, and I think the Pacers match up okay with them. I don't hate plus 415 to win the East right now for the Pacers. I think that's not all that bad. The Knicks are plus 750. I still don't think they get through the series, but I don't know.
I agree because of the 2-0 lead.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Right.
I don't hate it at all. When you go into the West and Oklahoma City down 1-0, they're still minus 160 to win the West, and Timberwolves plus 425, and even though they're down 1-0, they're going up against a Steph-less Warriors, so they're probably going to win that series. Like, how does that matchup look against the Thunder? Probably. I don't know. I think there's some interesting futures left in the NBA here.
Graham, I don't disagree with you about the Pacers because you look at this all these other teams, Brown and Tatum, they got to get their shots. Same thing in Minnesota. We mentioned yesterday with Edwards and all the 3-pointers that he missed, and it was the worst probably 23-point game he's ever had in his life. But you look at this Pacers team, everyone doesn't need their shots. That starting five is as good as any team left in the NBA playoffs. That starting five, they play well together. Halliburton is fantastic when it comes to passing the ball and getting assists, top 3 this year again. And I know he's been the hero in those come-from-behind wins, but still, that team is balanced. It doesn't matter. These guys all play together as a team. They all get that whole starting lineup gets like around 15 a game, gets around 5 assists a game. They're playing so well together right now. Neesmith has been fantastic. Siakam did what he had to do to get them back in the game yesterday. They just play team ball. They're really good.
Yeah, I think there are some future matchups, too, even. Like, you can get finals matchups, Cavs, Thunder, plus 950, Pacers, Thunder, plus 700. Like, there's if you're still all in on the Thunder, and I am.
But what about the Cavs in that one, right? You need Cavs, Thunder.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're basically, if you take both of those, plus 700, plus 900, you're counting on one of them to beat the Celtics. That's the play. I don't know. I kind of think that's an interesting way to go at both those. I guess you could just take them individually too. I haven't done the math there, so that's why I'm not very good at this professionally. You also like the Hurricanes minus 135 in Game 2.
Yeah, up 1-0. Look, the Canes are now 5-1 guys in the playoffs. Their defense held Ovechkin and the Caps to just 1 goal at home in Game 1, and game goes to overtime. They had a grand total of 14 shots the entire game. Washington did. I just think the defense is the difference for Carolina. The defense has given up 2 goals or less in regulation in 5 of their 6 playoff games. Goalie, I mentioned, Frederick Anderson has been tremendous. I think he shuts down the Caps again. I think this is like a 3-2 game. And if Carolina pulls Game 2 off here on the road in Washington, I'm looking for a sweep.
I got one of the things I'm most happy about is that our listeners keep updating me on overtime playoff games. So any NHL game goes to overtime, I get texts, I get emails, I get DMs, I get tweets, and I know to turn it on. And it happened again last night. It's like it's
popular guy, this Graham Couch.
Well,
we could just put on a notification, but I don't want to bother a bunch of people.
Don't know how to do that. So
makes you feel special. That's great too.
This is a better way. It's very personalized. I much appreciate it. Jason, do you have anything right now that you're like, I'm in love with on the gambling front?
Oh well, I don't know about love, boys, but me and golf and the Truist Championship, Harry, before the PGA. At Quail next week, I got Lucas Glover, top 40, the old man, iron player. This is where you need to be strong in the irons, the Truist Championship. Tom Hogue, top 40. And Corey Connors at a top 30 that pays plus 299. So that's going to be my golf bet of the week. I might sprinkle some more after.
At the Philadelphia Cricket Club is where they're playing this. Yeah, hey, look, I haven't looked at all. I saw who was playing this week, but I don't know anything too much about that course at all or whatever. Graham, maybe we'll trail Jason a little bit here in the golf this week as we head into the PGA next week.
As bad as our Masters bets were, we went 0 for 15. Yeah. I understand that, but I have been betting every week on the golf tournaments, and my problem has been is that I put 3 golfers in instead of 2 because I've been hitting 2 out of 3 golfers, but it's a non-cut event this week, so that is why the only reason why I'm picking the 3 guys. And there's only 72 players in this tournament, so. Yeah. I feel confident.
Is there anybody next week? Like Harry, we're taking next week off the show, and obviously it's the PGA week. And is there anybody, and I'm putting you on the spot here, that you kind of already looking ahead that you're thinking like this is somebody I may be in on next week?
Yeah, look, I know it's pretty easy to say after his win finally at the Masters and saying Rory McIlroy, but we haven't been able to say this in 10, 11 years. It's been since he's won a major, so really interesting to know and see how he comes out firing away at Quail Hollow on for this tournament, considering he is playing this week, and then also is coming off the Masters. He's going to be something to watch. And also maybe Justin Thomas, a guy who won a couple of weeks ago as well, finally got a win. It's been a while for him. I think his last win was 2 years ago in Hawaii. So I think that's a situation where looking at him, where he last year, beginning of the season, he was down. He was not playing well at all. Now he's got another title, a win under his belt. He's a guy to look at too, maybe to see what he can do. Maybe jump on some of Jason's top 10s and top 20s for that.
And also, Jordan Spieth could also he could finish the career Grand Slam with a PGA Championship victory. I wouldn't recommend gambling on him because it's a roller coaster of emotions more than most golfers. But I'll be rooting for Spieth.
But he played well in Texas over the weekend too. Last week too, played real well.
Well, we will, Harry. We will share your bets even when we're away next week on Against All Odds and anything else you post, just so our listeners who want to who are still with us after our Masters performance will.
And speaking of Against All Odds, I want to bring this up real quick, Harry. Harry had a thing the other day with the boys, cousin Sal and Parlay Kid. What's the other? I forget. Brother Bry. I love that podcast. But they were making fun of Harry because Harry's like, why don't you just walk Aaron Judge the first 2 at bats? Right, Harry? And the last night, Aaron Judge hit a home run in the first 2 at bats, so why not? They were goofing on you.
I've been saying this. You know how it works, Jay. They're never going to agree with me. When I come up with something brilliant, they're not going to. They scoffed. They laughed when I said Tom Brady was going to go play at Tampa Bay. And even till today, Bill Simmons still gives me credit for making that call. So they're not going to agree with me. And Sal's definitely not going to agree with me. But again, I think look at the Yankees' record. They're like 5 games over 500. Judge has 13 homers. 11 of them are in the first 4 innings. He's got 34 RBIs. 24 of those RBIs are in the first 4 innings. And I know Wells had a big game yesterday with 2 homers, but still, he's batting like 220. Volpe's batting like 230. You've got other guys in that lineup that are batting 230 or less, 6 other guys. You've got Goldschmidt, who's been playing fantastic in his first year with the Yanks, and you've got, obviously, Judge. And Judge has 24 of his RBIs out of 34 in the first 4 innings. So if you walk him and you give up the base, I don't care if there's nobody on base and you walk him, it's going to pay off in the long run by just giving up a base compared to the damage that guy can do, especially early. Make somebody else do it. Make somebody else. I would love for some of you guys out there, the listeners, to back me on this. Jay backed me yesterday, like he mentioned, but it only makes sense because you take away all those runs that he's produced in the first 4 innings. First 4 innings, Yankees probably lose 5 or 6 of those games, and they're not even at 500. And this, you're also dealing with a guy and talking about a guy in Judge who's batting 75 points higher than the next closest guy in all of baseball. He's hitting 420. It's insane.
No,
this is
agree.
a safe space right here, the Couch and the Rube podcast series, so you can bring all
we won't. Yeah, we value you more than your other podcast hosts.
I mean, it's not my worst idea ever, right?
No,
not my worst.
No, killing a rattlesnake with your bare hands is the worst idea I've ever heard. That'll go down as it.
I did it again. Yeah.
Before we go, I've got the thing Jason loves most, a couple soccer bets for you guys.
All right, see you guys.
Yeah, Jason's out. This week, Man City -2 at Southampton, right? So there's a chance they only win by 2, but they're going to at least win by 2. Southampton is, along with Leicester City, the worst team in the Premier League. They've been long since relegated. This is their last big home match, but Man City is in a real battle, and needs to keep winning to secure a Champions League spot for next year. -2 to me is just great value because you get it on the road here. I just love that. You can throw it in a money line parlay at like -500 too with just about anything else that's happening. But I love -2 at -120. I think it's great value. And then if you're looking for a little parlay, like a this week, next week parlay to play, Nottingham Forest this week at home against Leicester City. Leicester's bad. Nottingham Forest badly need to win. I think they find a way to get it. And then parlay it with next week, next Sunday, Everton in their final, I believe it's the final game at Goodison Park, final home game ever at Goodison Park against Southampton at -210. That pays even money. To me, Everton next week and Nottingham Forest this week is a parlay that pays even money. I really, really love.
A 2-week parlay.
2-week parlay. You got to wait for it. But think about that. If you've already got this, if you got the first leg paid off, you can go just needing Everton to beat Southampton in the final game at Goodison Park and enjoy that game on May 18th. Start your PGA Sunday with Everton Southampton and then roll into the golf. That would be my recommendation.
Good old Goodison Park, Jason.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's Jason's favorite
Legendary.
spot. Favorite spot. Harry, you are a beautiful, beautiful man. It is always good for the soul to hear your voice. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, man.
Sounds good, guys. Take care. See ya.
It's the great Harry Gagnon. He's going to be my call now when I have like a rabbit trapped in the fence.
Well, he's
something.
in Arizona.
I know.
So he can't really help you out.
I'll fly him out. I'd rather do that than touch
He'll give you a
myself.
pep talk.
I'm not touching anything.
Graham, you got to do it. Just kill it.
I won't kill.
Feels good.
I won't touch an already dead rabbit. I'm not touching anything that's alive for sure.
A rattlesnake? That sound alone. I mean, I don't blame him. I would just be taking out snakes anytime I saw one out there.
Those things are quick though. How close can you get? Like, don't they?
I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't.
I really don't want to know.
That's why you don't live in Arizona. Like, I don't understand how are property values in Arizona not like in the toilet? Like, who would pay for a house where you might have a rattlesnake on your property?
Well, I'm sure there's a way to keep them off of your property.
Is
right?
there?
I don't know.
I mean, how do you have children responsibly in a place like Arizona?
I think you just have to pull back a little bit and not care as much about your children, right? If you let them go out and play in those elements, right? I don't know. With all the helicopter parenting going on now, you let your kid go out with a possible rattlesnake?
Called DCFS. Yeah, I don't really believe that.
No thanks.
Yeah, no,
no, no thank you.
We appreciate all of you listening, especially maybe on our flights back and forth today. We appreciate Front 43 and Cask & Company. Go to caskandcompany.com to place a reservation. Just swing on by, park yourself at the bar at Front 43 or Cask & Company. Enjoy a great drink, a wonderful meal. I love the Big Island Bowl, the Maui Bowl. Their sushi is fantastic. Their burgers. It's just a great menu. It's a really great menu, again, at caskandcompany.com. Also, again, thinking about Mother's Day, think about Groovy Donuts, groovydonuts.com. We'll be back Friday with Groovy Donut Twitter questions, and we'll get into everything you're thinking. Appreciate Cody. Appreciate Harry. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Roof.